Craig, when you first heard this morning that Colin Powell had passed away, obviously he burst onto the scene, several decades ago. What kind of an influence was he on you as a conservative and also as an African American?
Well, I'll tell you, the long and short of it is, he was one of the first Black Republicans that the media, mainstream media, and the Democrats were unable to discredit. He was someone who was clearly influential in the policy, in particular the foreign policy of the Bush administration. He was someone who clearly had a firm understanding of military tactics. He was someone who demonstrated integrity and leadership in everything that he did. And then being that he was as he was a Republican, what he also brought was really put front and stage the diversity of the Republican Party, not just the diversity of his skin tone or cultural diversity, but also ideology, because there are a number of different things that Colin Powell believed as a Republican that I would disagree with. But he demonstrated in his being a part of the Republican Party showed that we do have debates and discussions about issues and things like that, and that you don't have to be in lockstep 100% with everything as a Republican in order to be a successful Republican working in a successful administration.
So, Craig, how will history look back on Colin Powell? Will it be more the military side, which was extremely prominent? Will it be the political side, Secretary of State? Where will this all fall?
Well, I think it'll all depend on who it is you're talking about. I think that some folks are going to remember him solely for the presentation that he did at the UN, and they're going to talk about how false it was. That's because they're trying to discredit him and discredit Republicans. You have some folks who are going to look at the leadership that he provided during the war in Iraq, how he really focused on the idea of, look, if you break it, you own it, and the responsibility that we have had for providing and contributing to stabilization in Iraq and in the Middle East. And I think that one can look forward into time and see just how correct he was on that. And then there's just his cultural commentary, the fact once again that there were many areas where he was demonized by the left as a Black Republican, but in many cases there were positions that he took that were consistent with other Black leaders, and some positions he took that were contrary. But once again, he showed that diaspora of political thought, not just within the Black community, but also within the Republican Party.
Was there anybody else around the time he was coming up that you were drawn to? Was he one of the first? And was there anyone else like that?
Well, I will tell you, Alan Keyes was always someone who was very high in my mind, but I would probably say that he didn't as much represent the diaspora. He was a very conservative individual, and myself being a card-carrying member of the vast right-wing conspiracy, I sympathize and I empathize a lot with him. Another figure was Condoleezza Rice. Condoleezza Rice, even still to this day, if you ever get a chance to hear her speak, please go hear her speak. She is a phenomenal mind. She has an intellect that is second to none, which is probably why we haven't been able to convince her to run for public office, because she's probably too smart to do that.
Craig DeLuz, we thank you for your time. Appreciate you.
Always a pleasure.
Okay.